Right now, there is a very good chance that a completely wild, complex ecosystem is thriving exactly 3 feet above your head.
Yeah, and you probably won't even know it's there.
Right. You won't even know it's there until the ceiling literally caves in. Welcome to the Deep Dive, everyone. I'm your host, and
And
today,
I'm your resident wildlife expert, ready to get into the detail.
ready to get into it exactly. Because, picture this. You are driving through the leafy, heavily wooded neighborhoods of Spring, Texas.
Beautiful area, honestly.
Oh, gorgeous.
Yeah.
Or maybe you are, cruising through the pristine, quiet subdivisions of Montgomery County. The oak trees are towering, the lawns are manicured.
Right, it looks perfect.
Yeah, the homes look like the absolute picture of peaceful domestic life. But behind the fascia boards, inside the soffits, and straight down into the crawl spaces, there is a hidden biological war being waged every single day.
And it's really a war of millimeters. The boundary between the natural world and our climate-controlled living spaces is incredibly fragile. We tend to view our homes as these impenetrable fortresses.
Right, like nothing can get in.
Exactly. But to local wildlife, human architecture is just a highly convenient, perfectly heated extension of the forest.
Which is exactly what we are exploring today. Our source material for this conversation is a fascinating operational manifesto, really, and a service breakdown from a wildlife removal service called the Critter Team.
Based right in the thick of it all, over on 17627 Shadow Valley Drive in Spring.
Yep, right in the middle of the action. But, we aren't just looking at this as a business profile. The mission of this deep dive is to use their field data and their specialized protocols to really explore the surprising biology of a suburban wildlife.
Because there's so much going on up there.
Oh, absolutely. We are going to look at the terrifying hidden biohazards lurking in our walls and the rigorous, almost military-level science required to manage that boundary between humans and nature.
Right, because human development has expanded so deeply into heavily wooded areas, places like the Woodlands, Conroe, Tomball, Magnolia.
Yeah, we're basically building inside their living room.
We really are. So when a homeowner encounters a raccoon in their attic, or a bat colony in their walls, it is not a random accident. It's a highly predictable biological adaptation.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, these animals are executing survival strategies that have been honed over millions of years of evolution. They're simply applying them to modern architecture.
Okay, let's unpack this, because reading through the source material, a light bulb really went off for me. Living in these leafy suburbs is basically like living inside a high-definition nature documentary.
That's a great way to put it.
Except, the wildlife has collectively decided that your specific attic is the ultimate five-star hotel. They're just passing through the neighborhood.
No, they are identifying structural weaknesses, they're moving in, establishing generational nesting sites, and honestly, leaving behind some incredibly dangerous biological footprints.
Which brings us to a fundamental misunderstanding I think most people have when they hear a scratch in the walls.
The bug problem instinct.
Yes. The immediate instinct to treat it like a bug problem. Like, oh, I'll just call the exterminator.
But dealing with an established wildlife presence requires a completely different paradigm. It requires absolute precision. You're dealing with complex animal intelligence and severe structural vulnerabilities here.
I want to push back on that for a second, though. If I hear a scratching noise above my bedroom, why wouldn't I just call the local bug exterminator who comes out and sprays for my ants?
Right.
Or, why wouldn't I just go to the hardware store, buy a generic trap, toss it up in the attic, and just call it a day?
It's a fair question.
Because the sources really emphasize the need for a decorated, certified specialist. Like, the founder of this company, Mike Garrett, is a military veteran who started the team in 2015 on the principle of doing things right the first time. And his team carries things like the NWCOA BAT Standard certification. And they take this specialized wildlife control operators course. Why is all that paperwork necessary for, like, a squirrel?
What's fascinating here is the massive legal, biological, and mechanical distinction between a pest and a native wildlife species.
Okay.
Ants and roaches are pests. You exterminate them. But the animals exploiting the gaps in your roof, like bats, are often heavily protected native species. You cannot simply fumigate a protected bat colony.
Right.
It's highly illegal, and it's biologically disastrous.
Because they play a massive role in the local ecosystem, right? Like eating thousands of mosquitoes a night.
Exactly. So dealing with them requires special specialized, regulated handling. A certification like the NWCOA bath standards isn't just a merit badge.
Right, it actually means something.
It means the operator deeply understands bat maternity seasons, migration patterns, and, most importantly, the complex respiratory biohazards associated with their waste, which we call guano.
Which we will definitely get into because that part is wild.
It really is. Furthermore, general bug exterminators or unlicensed trappers just do not understand the underlying biology of the animals. They might trap one squirrel, sure.
But they don't fix the real problem.
Exactly. They won't recognize the pheromone trails left behind that will inevitably attract 5 more squirrels.
Ah, that makes sense.
And the source material highlights that this team uses absolutely no subcontractors. They rely entirely on their own trained employees. People like Jeff, Julio, Tad, and Chris, who, by the way, are frequently praised by locals online.
Yeah, I saw they have a 4.5-star Google rating and like 32 next-door recommendations.
Yeah.
They even won the 2018 Animals Happen Excellence Award.
Right, ranking among the best nationally for bat, armadillo, squirrel, and roof rat control. They apply strict military-like accountability to animal control.
And when you start looking at the actual mechanics of how these animals operate, you realize why that level of knowledge is completely non-negotiable.
Oh, absolutely.
The ways these creatures exploit the tiniest vulnerabilities in our homes is honestly terrifying. Let's look at what the sources call the high-altitude invaders. The bats, the rats, and the birds.
The ones coming in from above.
Right. And here's where it gets really interesting. I've completely changed how I look at the roof of a house now. It is not a solid lid.
Not at all.
It's a complex, high-stakes puzzle of vents, soffits, and overlapping shingles. And if even one tiny piece of that puzzle is slightly warped, you lose the whole house.
It is entirely a game of fluid dynamics and millimeters. Let's take bats, since places like Spring in the Woodlands see frequent bat infestations.
Mostly due to the mix of water sources and heavy insect populations, right?
Exactly. Plus all those nice residential roofs. A bat doesn't need a massive hole to get inside. It can enter your attic through a gap as narrow as 3/8 of an inch.
Wait, 3/8 of an inch? That's like the width of a standard pencil. How do they even find a gap that small?
They feel the air currents. An attic is full of warm air. As that warm air escapes through a tiny 3/8 inch gap in your weatherproofing, bats flying nearby literally feel that thermal draft.
Oh, wow. So they're just scanning for heat.
Exactly. To them, that draft signals a deep, warm cave. They squeeze through, and once they establish that space as a roost, the colony just grows over time.
And that leads directly to the hidden biohazards we mentioned earlier. It's not just the noise of them crawling around, right?
Right.
It's what they leave behind.
Yes, the guano.
Right. The source talks extensively about guano accumulating in the insulation.
And this is exactly where that NWCOA training becomes critical, because guano is a severe medical issue. As it accumulates and dries out in an enclosed attic space, it acts as an incubator for histoplasmosis fungal spores.
Yeah, I was reading about this. It sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
It really does.
If a homeowner goes up into their attic, just to look for a storage box or some holiday decorations, and they step on this dried guano, it kicks these invisible fungal spores into the air.
That is the exact mechanism. Once disturbed, those microscopic spores become airborne. If you breathe them into your lungs, the warm, moist environment of your respiratory tract allows the fungus to grow.
Oh, that's terrifying.
It is. It causes severe respiratory illness that actually mimics tuberculosis. You cannot just sweep it up with a broom.
Right, that would just put more spores in the air.
Exactly. It requires commercial-grade HEPA vacuums, full respirator suits, and proper remediation equipment to protect the home's air quality.
Man, it makes that whole hardware store trap idea look pretty foolish in retrospect.
Definitely.
And it's not just bats squeezing through these tiny gaps. The local climate down in Spring is basically paradise for roof rats. The sources note that roof rats only need an opening the size of a quarter.
Just a quarter.
Yeah, they slip in through construction joints where the roof meets the fascia or around plumbing vents. And once they are inside, the biology works against you so rapidly. They multiply in a matter of weeks.
And because rodents have teeth that never stop growing, they are biologically compelled to constantly gnaw on hard materials just to file those incisors down.
Which means they chew on the wooden joists. But even more terrifyingly, They chew on electrical wiring.
Stripping the plastic casing right off the copper wires, it creates massive hidden fire hazards right inside the walls.
That is so dangerous.
And they also constantly contaminate the living spaces with droppings and urine, which literally soaks into the drywall. And right alongside the rats and bats, you have birds.
Oh, right. Birds in the vents.
Yeah, birds are highly opportunistic. They realize that a dryer vent, a bathroom exhaust vent, or a kitchen vent is essentially a pre-warmed, predator-proof nesting box.
Right, so they pack those vents full of dried twigs, grass, and feathers directly next to a heat source.
Which is another immediate extreme fire hazard.
But getting these high-altitude invaders out safely has to be a delicate process, right? Especially with the protected species. The source details an industry-standard method used by the team called live exclusion.
Yes, live exclusion.
I spent some time trying to visualize this. If you can't go into an attic with a net and catch hundreds of flying bats, how do you get them out? Do they use some kind of, funnel system at the exit points?
You are very close, actually. Live exclusion is brilliant because it uses the animal's own daily biology against it. The technicians locate every single 3/8 inch entry point.
Okay.
They seal all of them except the primary ones. Over those primary exits, they install specialized one-way exit devices. You can think of it mechanically like a lobster trap or maybe a stadium turnstile.
Oh, I see. So at dusk, the bats wake up and realize they need to go out and hunt for insects. They crawl through this device to leave the house.
Yeah.
But when they come back full of mosquitoes at, 4:00 a.m., the valve or the netting prevents them from gripping and re-entering.
Precisely. The device relies on gravity and angles. The bat drops out but cannot fly back up through the mechanism.
That's incredibly smart.
It is. The entire colony is safely and humanely excluded over the course of a few days without a single bat being touched or harmed, and the home is permanently sealed behind them.
So it's like, checkout is mandatory, and your key card has been deactivated.
Exactly.
So that covers the stealthy invaders slipping through the tiny cracks. But nature isn't always subtle.
No, definitely not.
Because while a roof rat might chew a tiny hole, that hole creates a structural weakness, and it creates a scent trail. And that scent trail attracts the heavy hitters.
The ground crew and the heavy roof invader.
Right. Let's talk about the animals that don't need a tiny crack because they prefer brute force.
This is where we see the transition from stealth to active destruction. The heavy tree coverage in neighborhoods across Montgomery County creates the perfect aerial highway for squirrels.
Oh yeah, they're everywhere.
And when a squirrel detects a slight draft or a rotting fascia board, they don't look for a hole to squeeze through, they manufacture one.
They just chew right through it.
They gnaw aggressively through the roof edges and soffits, tearing open massive holes to get into the wall cavities.
And raccoons are the ultimate escalation of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
The source data points out that raccoons have adapted incredibly well to suburban environments. They don't really fear humans much anymore.
Not at all. A single raccoon will climb a downspout, use its incredibly dexterous paws to literally rip your roof shingles and attic vents apart and establish a den.
And we are talking about thousands of dollars in physical damage here.
Easily. They crush the insulation, which reduces its energy efficiency to zero, and the biohazard they bring is arguably worse than the bats.
You're referring to raccoon roundworm.
Yes, raccoon roundworm. Raccoon feces often contain the eggs of this parasite, and these eggs are incredibly resilient. They can survive in your attic insulation for years.
And if those microscopic eggs are ingested or inhaled, like perhaps while a homeowner is just trying to clean up the mess themselves.
Right, which people try to do all the time.
The larvae can migrate through the human body, potentially causing severe neurological damage. It's a profoundly dangerous pathogen.
And the chaos isn't just up high either. On the ground level, you have armadillos.
Right, the ground crew.
Yeah, they aren't trying to get into the house, but they are following their biological drive to hunt grubs in the soil. They burrow deeply around the perimeter of a house, which can actually undermine a concrete foundation or a driveway, causing it to crack and sink.
Wow, just from digging for bugs.
Yep. Then you have skunks, which are notorious rabies vectors, burrowing under porches and decks, opossums denning under sheds, carrying a host of fleas and parasites.
And of course, the emergency snake calls.
Oh, right. Montgomery County has a highly active snake population. You have non-venomous rat snakes, which literally follow the rodent scent trails into garages.
Ugh, naturally.
But you also have venomous species copperheads, cottonmouths, coral snakes, and rattlesnakes.
That is quite the lineup.
It is. They seek out the radiant heat of a concrete garage floor or the moisture around a backyard pool. The critter team specializes in the safe capture and relocation of these reptiles alongside exclusion work to seal the lower perimeter of garages and patios.
Okay, I have to stop and ask the obvious question here.
Go for it.
If I have a raccoon tearing up my roof, crushing my insulation, leaving roundworm everywhere, and costing me thousands of dollars,
Yeah.
or if I have a venomous copperhead by my pool where my kids play, why wouldn't I resort to extreme measures? Doesn't it just make practical, immediate sense to use poisons or lethal kill traps to stop them instantly?
It's a common thought.
I mean, why go through the hassle of live exclusion and relocation when my property is being actively destroyed?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, using poison or inhumane killing traps is not only ethically problematic, it is structurally and mechanically counterproductive.
Okay, how so?
Well, the Critter Team's manifesto explicitly refuses to use them for very specific scientific reasons. Let's look at the mechanics of poison. If you throw rodenticide into your attic to kill a rat or a raccoon, the poison does not kill them instantly. It takes days.
And during those days, the animal feels sick, so its biological instinct is to retreat to the deepest, darkest, most inaccessible part of your home to hide.
Exactly. They crawl deep down inside a wall cavity, between the studs, and they die.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Now, instead of a live animal scratching, you have a decomposing biomass locked inside your drywall.
That sounds horrific.
It is. As it breaks down, it creates an unreachable odor problem, a localized biohazard, and a breeding ground for carrion flies. You've literally traded a wildlife problem for a severe sanitation crisis.
Man, that is so much worse.
And furthermore, killing the animal does absolutely nothing to solve the underlying structural vulnerability of the home.
Right. You kill one raccoon, but the basketball-sized hole it ripped in your roof is still there.
And the scent markers are still there.
Yeah, so another raccoon is just going to walk through the exact same hole next Tuesday.
Precisely. True wildlife management, therefore, relies strictly on species-specific best practices. It means utilizing professional-grade, live trapping mechanisms.
Oh, outsmarting them.
Right. It requires understanding biological calendars, identifying spring and fall maternity seasons, to ensure that if you trap a mother raccoon, you are also carefully locating and removing the litter of baby raccoons hidden in the insulation.
Rather than just leaving them there to starve.
Exactly. It is an intellectual battle. You have to outsmart the animal, safely relocate it, and then permanently alter the environment so they cannot return.
That makes total sense. You aren't just reacting to a symptom,
Yeah.
You are systematically solving the root cause.
Exactly.
But extracting the animal and outsmarting them is really only phase one. Because once the invaders are physically gone, what happens to the absolute disaster they leave behind? Let's get into the science of restoration and fortification.
This is perhaps the most critical part of the entire operation, and it is the phase that homeowners almost universally underestimate.
Oh, I believe it.
Animal infestations leave a lasting toxic legacy. Even after the bats are flown out or the raccoons are relocated, their presence lingers in your home in highly dangerous ways.
Yeah, reading through this final section of the source material, the only analogy that makes sense to me is that this process is a hybrid between a specialized biohazard crime scene cleanup and, like, a medieval castle fortification.
That is a highly accurate way to visualize it.
You aren't just kicking the invading army out of the courtyard. You have to sanitize the grounds, rebuild the stone walls, and pull up the drawbridge.
Absolutely. The attic cleanup and decontamination process is extensive. Contaminated insulation doesn't just hold the histoplasmosis or the roundworm we discussed earlier.
What else is in there?
It harbors fleas, ticks, mites, and severe allergens. The team has to execute a total attic restoration. They utilize massive commercial-grade vacuum equipment to physically extract every inch of the contaminated insulation from the home.
And they can't just stop at vacuuming, right? Because the wood itself has absorbed urine and pheromone.
Correct. They perform comprehensive surface sanitization, and most importantly, they apply specialized enzyme treatments.
Why enzymes specifically? Why not just spray bleach everywhere and call it a day?
Because bleach only disinfects the surface, and it mostly just masks the smell. Enzymes act biologically. The enzyme molecules physically bind to and digest the odor-causing proteins left behind by urine, feces, or decomposition.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, by biologically breaking down those proteins, you actually eliminate the scent markers. This is crucial because those scent markers act as a beacon to other wildlife, signaling that your attic is a viable, pre-tested nesting site.
That's fascinating.
Only after the biological markers are completely erased do they install fresh, energy-efficient insulation.
And then comes the medieval fortification part.
Right?
Because the team is a Ridge-Guard certified installer. They don't just patch a hole with chicken wire.
No, not at all.
They use commercial-grade steel exclusion materials to armor the roof returns, the soffit intersections, the gable vents, and the foundation gaps. Every single architectural vulnerability is systematically sealed off.
And they back this up with a written warranty against animal reentry, which really highlights why a one-call solution is the entire backbone of their operational model.
It's entirely about eliminating the gaps in accountability, isn't it?
Exactly. If a homeowner attempts to piecemeal this process, like hiring an unlicensed trapper to remove a squirrel, then calling a separate cleaning crew to vacuum the attic, and finally hiring a roofing contractor a week later to fix the fascia board.
The timeline totally breaks down.
Oh, absolutely. The roofer points fingers at the trapper, the cleaner says the roofer left a gap, and during that 1-week delay, a completely new family of roof rats moves into the vulnerable attic.
And you're right back to square one.
Having a single veteran-operated team that operates 24/7 handle the entire pipeline, from the 2.0 a.m. emergency snake inspection, to the precise slide exclusion, to the biological decontamination, right through to the structural repair, and warranty ensures that the entire ecosystem of the home is completely restored under one unified chain of command.
So we have covered a massive amount of ground today. We started on the idyllic oak-lined streets of Spring and Montgomery County, and we journeyed straight up into the dark, vulnerable, complex ecosystems of our own attics.
It's a whole other world up there.
It really is. We've learned that a simple scratching noise above the bedroom ceiling is rarely just a minor annoyance. It's a complex biological event that requires a deep understanding of animal behavior, specialized training to handle biohazards like histoplasmosis, and rigorous humane intervention to permanently solve.
True wildlife management isn't about blind extermination. It requires a profound scientific respect for the capabilities of nature, combined with the discipline and precision to effectively armor our living spaces against it.
And for you listening, if you happen to live in the Montgomery County area, whether you are in Shenandoah, Cypress, Auburn Lakes, Panther Creek, or anywhere nearby, and you find yourself dealing with these unseen wild roommates, you don't have to guess your way through it. The Critter team can be reached for a free phone consultation at 281-201-4109 to assess the vulnerabilities in your own roof line.
This raises an important question, though, and it is something really worth reflecting on.
Okay, let's hear it.
In this industry, and just as homeowners generally, we spend so much time and energy thinking about how wildlife is aggressively invading our human territory. We fortify the perimeters, but if you take a step back and look at the biology,
Yeah.
our perfectly climate-controlled attics, our cozy, fluffy insulation, our rainproof roofs, and our safe, predator-free wall cavities perfectly mimic the ultimate natural nesting grounds.
Oh, yeah.
Are these animals really invading human territory out of malice, or have we accidentally spent the last century building them the absolute perfect, ultimate luxury trees and caves?
That is such a wild perspective shift. So what does this all mean for you? The next time you pull into your driveway, turn off the car, and look up at your pristine, quiet suburban home, take a second to really look at the roofline.
Look at those gable vents.
Right. Look closely for those tiny 3/8 of an inch gaps. Remember that to you, it's just a house and a mortgage. But to the wild, highly adaptable world outside, it just might be the best, most inviting 5-star habitat in the entire forest. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep your eyes open, listen to those scratches in the night, and we will catch you next time.